الحمد لله وكفى سلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد عن أبي جريح جابر بن سليم رضي الله عنه قال قلت لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اعهد إلي قال لا تصبن أحد قال فما صببت بعده حرا ولا عبدا ولا بعيرا ولا شاة قال ولا تحرقن شيئا من المعروف وأن تكلم أخاك وأنت منبسط إليه وجهك إن ذلك من المعروف وارفع إزارك إلى نصف الساق فإن أبيت فإلى الكعبين وإياك وإسبال الإزار فإنها من المخيلة وإن الله لا يحب المخيلة وإن امرؤ شتمك وعيرك بما يعلم فيك فلا تعيره بما تعلم فيه فإنما وبال ذلك عليه أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام وهو بعض الحديث رواه Abu Dawud. Regarding our dars of Hadith from the book of Muntakhab Ahadith, this Hadith is from the chapter of Ikramul Muslim, honoring the rights of a Muslim, under the subchapter of the warning against harming a Muslim. This is Hadith number 285 from that chapter. This Hadith is from Abu Dawud, one of the Sahih Sitta, one of the 6 most authentic books of Hadith. Sayyidina Abu Jurayh, Jabir ibn Sulayman radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that I asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, give me advice. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, La tasubbanna ahad, do not abuse anyone. Abu Jurayh Jabir ibn Sulaym radiyallahu anhu, he says that after this I've never abused a free man or a slave or a camel or a goat. قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam then further advised, ولا تحرقن شيئا من المعروف وأن تكلم أخاك وأنت منبسط إليه وجهك إن ذلك من المعروف. And don't consider any good deed insignificant. Even speaking to your brother with a smile on your face, that is also an act of righteousness, or that is also good. وارفع إزارك إلى نصف الساق فإن أبيت فإلى الكعبين. And keep your trousers to half of your shin, and if not, then let it go to up to your ankles. If you like, you can keep it up to your ankles. وإياك وإسبال الإزار فإنها من المخيلة وإن الله لا يحب المخيلة. And be very careful with dragging your trousers, meaning letting your trousers drag below your ankles. And again, this is for men, because that is a sign of pride. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not like those who have pride, or He does not like those that have pride. إن امرؤ شتمك وعيرك بما يعلم فيك فلا تعيره بما تعلم فيه فإنما وبال ذلك عليه. And if someone is abusing you or trying to humiliate you with something they know about you, then don't humiliate them or abuse them in front of others, humiliating them with something you know about them. Because then the blame of this will fall on them, meaning they'll be responsible for doing what they're doing, the sin of that. And again, this is part of a hadith from Abu Dawud. We were in the portion regarding the advice of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, وَلَا تَحْرِقَنَّ شَيْئًا مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ, and do not consider any good deed insignificant. وَأَن تُكَلِّمَ أَخَاكَ وَأَنْتَ مُنْبَسِطٌ إِلَيْهِ وَجْهُكَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ. Because even if you're smiling at your brother when you're speaking to your brother, that is also an act of righteousness. That also has right rewards attached to it. And this is something that is very, very simple that we may look down on, something insignificant. To speak with someone in a cheerful manner and to smile. We understand that when we speak with someone who is cheerful, it also cheers us up. That is why company is very, very important, the kind of company we keep. If you keep the company of people who have a good mood, generally cheerful, with a smile on their face, it also cheers us up. We'll also be cheerful. We'll also become happy. It brings about a kind of happiness in the mood of a person. There are many, many things that affect our moods. We have to understand that we live in a world of cause and effect. Whether we accept that or not, or whether we want to understand it or not, one thing is very clear, is that our moods are affected by those that are around us, those that we speak to, those that we keep the company of. And there are many other things that also affect our mood. The temperature can affect our mood. Certain scents, certain smells can trigger memories, can trigger emotions. It can affect our mood. And there are many, many other things. Certain sounds. Sound is very, very powerful. Our major senses, they are very, very unique, and they're uniquely attached to our emotions and our moods. We have to remember this. From what we see, what we hear, what we smell, even what we taste, they also consider touch, but that also considers the feelings and the environment, the temperature. All of these can affect our mood. Sounds are very, very powerful, and also the olfactory sense, the sense of smell. It can trigger memories, it can trigger emotions. There's been a lot of research into the effect of various senses and the various, it's considered unique and extraordinary. The human mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us such a brain, such a mind, such a control center, that it is alert to everything around us, whether we are aware of it or not. And many a times these subtle, very, very subtle things around us, we may not even recognize it with our conscious mind, but our subconscious mind does process even those things that we may not even be aware of around us. And many of these are picked up by various senses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put within us. And again, this is a whole different field to get into. And that is why even the psychologists, they tell us that in many a times, in many circumstances, don't just neglect or dismiss your gut feeling. Sometimes we get this feeling within us, something that we cannot explain. It is a mood or an emotion, and we just dismiss it because our conscious mind is not picking up anything. And we sometimes feel that, oh, it was nothing and we should just go about our life. Later on, it turns out that that feeling was actually justified. There was something there that we did not recognize. And there have been numerous examples and stories of people who walk about in one area and all of a sudden they get this fear. And they don't know why they're afraid, but they just continue on and they don't really bother with it. Later on, they find out that in that area there was some dangerous, either individual or some animal or something, and someone had gotten attacked in that exact location or those areas. Many times there's certain information that this conscious mind cannot really pick up, but the subconscious mind picks it up. And later on, that information can be very, very extraordinary. It can even affect human mood and human understanding, human emotions. those that are experts in the field of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, they understand the effect that certain words have. And also there's a whole research on sound. Sound is so extraordinary that particular sounds can trigger within a person fear. Other sounds can trigger within a person happiness. Other sounds can trigger within a person various adrenaline rush and other emotional responses within a person. That is why you have in the field of music, and again, this is also going into why music has, even in Islam, has been looked at as something that is disliked. And again, coming to the music of today, where there's nothing but filth in it, that is even considered haram. And we should generally stay away from this type of whatever is out there. But there are certain sounds within music that can trigger particular responses. That is why certain people, they listen to certain types of music. Other people even get addicted to certain types of music. And again, I don't have much information or much knowledge about the different types of music, but there are people who enjoy particular emotions being triggered, and they will go behind a certain song or certain types of music and they'll follow that, or they will get addicted to that and develop a liking for it. Because these trigger particular types of responses within our emotions and our moods. And that is the sound aspect. Same applies to what we see, the visual aspect. Sometimes we see something and without even realizing it, we are affected. How many times we drive by some certain restaurant and all of a sudden we think of a certain food, or we crave a particular type of food. Or how often we go about a particular book, we get a certain type of emotional feeling that we had gotten from those books. And so on and so forth. So various, even our visual sensory system is so powerful. And generally even things that might be shown in a second, or even our conscious mind may not be able to process it, the subconscious mind becomes alert and it can trigger certain emotions within the human body. There was again, this is speaking about advertisements, the advertisement industry. There's a lot of subliminal messages that have been put into various types of ads to affect or to bring about a certain response to a certain product. And some of these messages being on a subliminal level, you only see it within a second or a fraction of a second. And many a times even the advertisement that is being shown has very little or almost nothing to do with the product. But in that advertisement, for a second or a very short period of time, you're shown the logo or the name of a product. And while you're paying attention to the overall advertisement, you don't even realize how you're being fed this information in the subconscious mind. And your mind picks it up. You end up realizing that this was about a particular product. And generally people like those type of products, or go after those type of products. And the same can be said about the scent. Certain types of fragrance trigger certain types of emotions, either sad emotions or happy emotions. And again, that is the effect of other things on us. One of the most powerful things that can really affect our mood and really affect our emotions, one of the most powerful is the human facial expressions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created on the face of every single human being this ability to show certain emotions. And some of those emotions are so powerful that if we are even exposed to those emotions on someone else, we become affected in the similar way or in the same way. Especially if the emotion is intense, then we are also affected by it. That is why if you sit beside someone who is sad, and you sit with them and have a discussion with someone who has lost a loved one and who's really sad, just being in their presence, even for a very short period of time, for a minute or a few minutes, by you having a conversation with them and looking at their face, you will walk away from that meeting with them, you will also be sad. And the same applies to other emotions. When it comes to happiness, it can really change our mood. You speak with someone who is happy, who is in a cheerful mood, and you speak to them in a hopeful mood. They're cheerful, they're happy. Being with them even for a few moments, it can also it can completely change our mood. That is one thing that we find in today's society, that the next generation, or the generation that we see that are coming, they are void of actual human interaction. Many of them are either busy with their cell phones or social media or video games, and have this isolated system that they're involved in. They have very little social exposure. Even sometimes when they speak to their friends, it's done through a screen. And that really doesn't capture the full experience of speaking to someone. So many are isolated in their own world. And that is why you find many of them that they lack this happy mood or this cheerful mood. And one of the things that we have found is that those, especially in families, when the family has a strong structure, and this is why it is important that as families, as believers, we should have a system in the day where we do something together as a family. Either eat one meal all together, put away everything and just have a meal together. Sit down and have a discussion together. Pray some salah together. Because that can completely transform first and foremost, the connection of the family and the relationship of a family, but also the overall mood of the family. And this is why mashwara and shura are also very, very important. One of the qualities of the believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. The believers are those who respond to the command of their Lord. They establish salah, which means they fulfill the commandments of the deen. They establish salah. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. And they discuss important matters in consultation. They take consultation with one another. And this really builds relationships, and this is why it's important to also check the mood of one another. We should not put ourselves in such a sad mood where we become helpless and start to become stressed. Rather, we should check our emotions. We should check our levels of stress or our moods and try to have some cheerful conversation in a day. One of the things also that is important is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has created mankind. And in mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put this qalb, this heart. And one thing about this qalb, this heart, which is unique and extraordinary, is that the qalb of a mu'min, the heart of a believer, contains the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It contains the recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that who is Allah. And the hearts of believers, they understand when we say La ilaha illallah, there is this recognition, this ma'rifah that comes in the heart. And these hearts, the heart of a believer, where the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, this is very, very sacred. The heart of a believer is very sacred. That is why we should be very, very careful in breaking the heart of a Muslim, any Muslim. And also, along with this, if breaking the heart of a Muslim or really causing them emotional pain is even considered sinful, then what will be the opposite of that? What will be the case of someone who brings joy to the heart of a believer? So there's great reward in that. As these hearts of the mu'mineen, the heart of the believers that contain the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they ever become sad or stressed, we give that person hope. We tell them to put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we go with a cheerful mood, we cheer them up. Then how much reward there will be in this? And that is also why we find numerous rewards in ajr for visiting the sick, and for visiting the family of the deceased. When someone passes away, we visit doing ta'ziyah. Nowadays, the visitations have changed. due to the current conditions that we're in, for those who may see this in the future, we are going through a global pandemic known as COVID-19. This is still the year 2021, beginning days of the first day of March. So even the meeting might be different, but just calling someone or video chatting with someone and cheering them up, giving them this support, making them happy, putting a smile on their face, changing their mood, making them feel better, and how much reward there will be in this. And we may consider this as something insignificant, but it has a profound impact, and also that impact carries immense ajr and reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's also a lot of research there's a concept known, and there's actually in the medical field something called a placebo effect. And then there's also the opposite of that, the nocebo effect. And that is why even in medicine, whenever they do clinical trials and clinical studies, there's those who are given the actual medication or vaccine or whatever it might be. And then on the opposite side of that, there's a particular group of people who are kind of given a placebo effect. They're told that they're given a particular medication, and that is how they're able to distinguish or differentiate between actual results and just placebo effects. But there's a system known as a placebo effect, also a nocebo effect, the opposite of that, where they say if you give a sick man a sugar pill or a little bit of sugar, and you tell them it's medicine, they'll actually feel better. And that is because of the glucose within sugar. It obviously changes your mood, but that, along with the fact that the person actually believes that this is medicine. As human beings, what we believe in can also have a profound impact. And that is why some of the most successful doctors in the medical field are those who can actually make their patients believe that they're getting better. This is a very, very unique effect. A lot of power Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to every human being. Along with the immune system, there's also a system of belief. If you truly believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cure you, that you'll get better, you will actually get better. It's called a placebo. But there's also the opposite is also true. And if somebody genuinely believes that they're sick, they can actually make themselves sick. They can actually trigger certain types of responses that will make them sick. And there's so many examples, even in history. There was an incident that happened back in the 1970s, 1980s, where an individual went and he had some blood work done, but his blood had gotten mixed up with the blood of someone else. There was some mistake in the clinical testing in those days. And the report came and he was told that you are sick. And the sickness was such that it was incurable. He was given a few months to live. I believe it was cancer or some other sickness. They told him, listen, you have 2 months or 3 months to live, and that's it. This individual truly believed that. And he went home and just, said goodbye to his family, called all of his friends, whatever he could get in touch with. And he, told everyone that that's it, I'm finished, I'm dying. And he continuously went into this mindset that I'm finished. And when he started going into this mindset, after a few months, he actually died. And when they did the autopsy, they found out that he was perfectly healthy, and even the inspectors and the police were surprised at how he died like this in the medical field. So they sent someone to the family that what happened to this individual? How did he just die like this? We understand that he got weak and he got sick, but he doesn't have the cancer or whatever they're claiming. And the family said that no, when he was told that you have a few months to live, he basically said goodbye to everyone. He would sit on the porch and just continuously repeat these words that I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. So he convinced himself that he was going to die, and he actually died. They call this a nocebo, and this was something extraordinary, that the human mind can actually kill a person if you go into that much negativity and you push yourself to that level. On the other side, there are so many examples in the medical field of actual patients who have incurable diseases, but the doctors give them hope, tell them, listen, you will get better, go home, take this medicine. And they cheer the patient up without actually making them feel it and know about it. And after a few months, those patients, they get cured. And there's not one example, there's so many examples known as the placebo effect, where someone believes that they're getting better, they actually get better. And that is why even in Islam, we're told to always have hope. We're not allowed to ever become hopeless of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is extraordinary is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He has given the name of Shaitan, the devil. His original name is Iblis. And if you go into Arabic, the word Iblis is someone who it takes its root from hopeless. Ablasa yublisu iblas, which is actually a term used and even in the Quran, that the disbelievers on the Day of Judgment, when they'll be put in hellfire, they'll become hopeless. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save and protect us. وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ يُبْلِسُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. On the Day of Judgment, the criminals or the sinners and the disbelievers will become hopeless. So this term, Iblis, which is the name of the devil, the name of Shaitan. Iblis is someone who be completely hopeless or becoming hopeless of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a very deep message in that. That it is a very, very, very terrible thing for someone to become hopeless of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why even Yaqub alayhi salam, when he told his sons to go and find Yusuf alayhi salam, after a long time, after so many years, where even the children became hopeless, they will ever find Yusuf alayhi salam. At that time, Yaqub alayhi salam, he told his son, his children, وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Then never become hopeless of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only the disbelievers and the kuffar become hopeless of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're not supposed to become hopeless, regardless of whatever condition it might be. Life and death is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we don't know when our time will come. Even if we're told that we have a few days or a few weeks or a few months, don't waste them becoming hopeless or becoming sad. Rather spend them in a cheerful, in a good way. And try to keep the spirit high, keep your level high. Never become hopeless. And that is why having a cheerful, being around people who will cheer us up, this can have a profound impact on everything, even within our body. So we may consider something even as simple as smiling at our brother as something insignificant, but Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is telling us in this hadith, إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ. That is also from al-ma'ruf, from good deeds. It also has its own ajr and rewards attached with it. Because you're cheering someone up. And by cheering them up, you're making them hopeful. By making them hopeful, you're making them, even without even realizing it, changing their mood, changing their emotion. It can even affect them physically. So this is very, very important that we should understand, along with never ever considering any good deed insignificant. We should try and understand the importance of even those a'mal that we may see as insignificant. There's a reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attached rewards and ajr with many of these a'mal, with many of these actions and deeds. That reward comes because of the immense impact that those righteous deeds have. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ.